Gear up for Molten Chances, my new fan-made chapter for Dead by Daylight that puts survivors in a predicament where stealing seems to be the only option to preserve their lives. Gheorghe Negrescu was an armorsmith at the court of the Hungarian king in 1387. He had been lucky not to have been sentenced to death when, at the age of 15, he was a member of a shabby pack of street kids that caused trouble by stealing, raping, and taking hostages. As the ward of a Romanian lord, his head did not end up on a spike above the city's west gate like those of many of his friends. Instead, he was chained to an anvil, obliged to serve until he would eventually topple off the stool from exhaustion. His dream of noble knighthood evaporated as a result of his own actions. But his good work did not go unrewarded. 20 years later, he was no longer chained, and his youthful sins had disappeared from most people's minds. And Gheorghe took his chance. If he couldn't be a knight, he at least wanted to look like one. He began to wear his self-made armor in his daily life and enjoyed the fear he spread. No one stood in his way. No one questioned his deeds. He was the unofficial ruler of the place where he stayed. He received the respect he had never earned. It went to his head. He began to fantasize. He saw images of a world with technologies that were unfamiliar to him. Soon, these images became his new reality, and the entity, a ruler who loved him. He believed. The power of the Armourer is massive shields. He can place shields on objects in 4 dark colors and starts with 2 of each color. These shields block interactions with the object from any player. Objects that can be interacted with from several sides, such as walls and generators, have to be blocked on each side to block the object completely. Whenever the Armourer uses this ability to massively hinder survivors from doing their objective, the entity intervenes and melts the Armourer's shields after a short duration. Survivors can remove a shield using a key of the appropriate color. Whenever a survivor is put into the injured state by the Armourer, or when the killer is stunned, he simultaneously loses a key of a random color that can be picked up by survivors. A survivor can carry up to 2 keys at the same time. Survivors can also steal a random key from the Armourer by standing still right behind him or by not wiggling after 50% wiggle progress in the Armourer's grasp. While carrying a key, survivors see the auras of all shields of the same color at a high range. The Armourer can create 4 new shields at his forge, which is always located at the back wall in the killer basement. Forging has a cooldown. The Armourer is also granted a special ability for unique chases. He can slam his monstrous weapon onto the ground, which creates a seismic wave that spreads in a circle from this point. Survivors hit by the seismic wave suffer from the same stagger effect as if they were falling from a great height. With add-ons, the Armourer can easily correct mistakes and increase his options at the start of a trial. He can apply status effects on survivors to remove a shield and increase the range of the seismic wave. He can restrict the survivor's ability to see the auras of shields, make the seismic wave break dropped pallets, and spawn a second killer basement. His ultra-rare add-ons grant him the power to determine the color of the first lost keys and focus his forging skills on shields of a different color. The Armourer comes with 3 new perks that block objects for a short amount of time, destroy progress unconditionally, and grant a shortcut to the killer basement. Divine Punishment. Hit a wall with a basic attack while not carrying a survivor to call upon the entity and create an iridescent portal to the stair landing of the killer basement that exists for a short duration. The perk has a cooldown and does not activate while the survivor is hooked in the killer basement or while 2 or more survivors are located there. Nailed Hideouts. Reveals the auras of survivors in a close range to any object blocked by the entity. Whenever you vault or pick up a survivor, all lockers in the level become blocked and cannot be opened by survivors for a short duration. Mighty Arrival. Whenever a generator is completed, any generator that reaches 99% progression shortly afterwards will instantly become blocked by the entity. The perk also grants a bonus to progress loss on your first damage actions. Get ready to steal keys from a brutal giant that is amused when you run around in circles. Dead by Daylight, Molten Chances is available never.